Victor Reginald Bob Abihat, Creative Director for victor-hart. Today I want to speak with you about my experience in Italy, precisely Bologna. I came to Italy 2018 and it was the time which I knew nothing about Italy. I had scholarship and I found myself in the beautiful city of Italy called Milan, which is the fashion capital also in Italy. And it was really interesting living in Milan because I understand a lot of things. I didn't know anything about Italy because it was a dream that I want to study abroad and also want to live abroad. But with this interest and with this dream that I had, I didn't know how to deal with it. I didn't know how to go about it. I didn't know how to visualize how I would live in Italy. So when I arrived in 2018, it was like a fish in the water, you know, with dangling in the water. And then it was funny how I came and couldn't understand how things works in Europe and how the system works, how I have to organize myself and then focus on studies. And the beautiful part was in all these struggles, in all these shambles of how I was trying to organize my life, there I really begin to integrate with a lot of people, with the city itself, try to understand. And the beautiful part is in Milan, people are really more open, in my opinion. That's what I feel, because back in 2018, every time after school, you make friends from other universities. We go for a drink, we chat. And my classmates were also international students from France, from Switzerland, from Egypt, from Bulgaria. And it was really interesting, fascinating, and you could understand how we try to integrate in the class and try to help each other in terms of learning, try to impart what we know into others. And it was really beautiful for me in Italy because it was like a dream come true for me, because Italy was the only country I had in mind that I want to visit, I want to travel, I want to stay there, I want to possibly live there and have a business in Italy. So that was the dream, and finally I had it. So it was really a moment that I believe in dreams. It was really the moment also I believe in reality. And after school, I had to find a job, so I moved to Bologna, which is a beautiful city as well. And Bologna is much more getting more interesting and personal for me, because I am beginning to understand how the city has evolved with people and also the beautiful people of Bologna. Yes, many times there are people who are closed, there are people who are open, but because of the university in Bologna, it's more interesting to integrate with other people and exchange the cultures and have a conversation and try to understand how to navigate with people who are from here. And as a designer in Bologna, it's really interesting for me. Like, every Sunday I go to the city center to buy a cappuccino and then sit somewhere and watch people walk around holding hands with their dogs, cats, with their moms, grandmas. And you know, the city center is a place where I find it like the normal runway for everyday people. That's it's funny. Everyone wears something crazy, something interesting. Crazy as in something really fascinating. That when you see, you laugh, and you pick up, you just take your phone and take a photo, because it will remind you of something that you can always have a reference to. And in doing this kind of studies, like for my personal use as a designer, it's enlightened me on a lot of things. I understood through how to navigate in Italy in terms of your image, you know, as an African, and also understanding the culture of dressing in Bologna itself and Italy as a whole, and which opens me to a lot of doors in terms of learning the traditions of Italy, the traditions of Bologna, Milan. I have lived in Milan, I have lived in Piacenza, and how people react to you when you wear something strange, you know, and how people also dress and feel when they are kind of like outside and try to have fun. And as a designer, for me, looking at people is the best part of what I do, and observing and try to integrate with people by speaking, and then try to have a conversation with them and know what influenced their taste in terms of what they are wearing. And it's shocking that people tell me a lot of stories for me. I'm from Africa, and then sometimes I laugh, sometimes I say this is crazy, and then it's the truth. They are not. It's just that I am not familiar with those things, and some of the things I have realized is people buy from everywhere: vintage, high fashion, luxury fashion, accessible fashion, wherever it may be, and then they try to put things together in their own way. And now I find that for me, fashion is like an armor which you put on and which guides you to help you interpret how you feel in your dress, in how you put on the lipstick, how you put on your hair, how you put on the pants, the shirts, how you wear your shoes, you know. And this is really interesting that every Sunday I find something unique, authentic with the people of Bologna, even the foreigners which comes to visit as tourists. You see them wearing something which is really like crazy, interesting, exaggeration, and these things are really fun. And I pick ideas from all of these. Sometimes people are not open to speak about it, but most I could get was to just approach them. Hey, how are you doing? I like your dress. And then we start a conversation to understand what they're wearing, what influenced them. And some tells me it's from my grandma, it's from my sister, it's for me. I bought it 20 years ago. Now I'm wearing it because in the pandemic I was home, and a lot of things which makes the whole story more fascinating. It's like sifting through a big bag, heap of clothes to understand what's your size, and that's the kind of the story that they tell me. So I am now more drawn towards like watching people every day on Sunday, watching people on every Sunday with a cappuccino, and then in the city center, and then drawing possibly also, and then into talking, and then try to understand what's on their mind. And every day I find new ideas, I find new concept of things. I learn through a lot of conversation through international students, through foreigners, those from the south, those from the north, you know, the African community also in Bologna. And it's more interesting that I get close to understanding all of these cultures with the people, with the food. And hey, my best dish is lasagna, which is in Bologna, yes. But then back to the issue again. But then looking at all of these situations around me in Bologna has influenced my designing process, as in I look at the functionality of a dress and also the beauty of it, and also the longevity of the dress, and also looking at the quality, looking at also what makes it a good design. Yes, a good design is subjective to a lot of people, but then again, functionality is the highest point on my on my list, which is going to be more functional to use in so many ways, how it's going to last long. And these things are the things that everyday people that we see, you know, always seek for. It's not about the small community of fashion people who really thinks about brands, logos. No, our mom, our grandma, our sisters, our brothers who don't know anything about dress, who don't go for shopping for many times, but they just find something online, or they go to a shop and they find one quality jacket and they buy it, you know. This is the interesting part of fashion for me, that I listen to a lot of people speaking about this. The young generation like us, now we're more driven towards vintage, yes. And I have other friends who don't have time to even buy a dress from a shop. They buy from online, it arrives and it's terrible. But then again, what's influenced my design process is these stories that I find with other people, and also how best for myself this kind of the product or the garments can be useful in my life. You know, let me tell you a story. How do you feel when you have to go embark on a trip maybe you're from the north, you have to embark on a trip to the south, to Palermo, which is a beautiful city, you know. I've never been there, I want to go there. And then in understanding that you're going for a trip, you know, you feel so much joy. You can't even sleep. You're trying to find the best dress to look so good, to take the photos in Palermo, and then you are very happy. And the best part of it is the adventure you're going to embark on is an unknown adventure which you know nothing about. You don't know what's going to happen on the road. You don't know what's going to happen when you get to Palermo. And this is the journey which I find in fashion that is really interesting for me, that you don't have to know the future of it. You don't have to know what's going to happen, but you just have to experience it. And by doing so, you have to do it at your comfort. You have to do it with a good expression of yourself, your personality, your identity. And these are the things that, for me, it's really important, because when I want to embark on a trip, I'm really filled with joy. I want to do a lot of things when I get there. You know, I'm planning, and the planning doesn't go as I want. But then, hey, that's life. And that's the beauty of making an adventure, going on a trip. And making clothes, for me as a designer, is a journey, is a trip. You know, you start with one idea, and then the idea changes into a lot of things. It metamorphosizes into so many branches that nobody could even think of, and that's the best part of it for me. And in all of this, the reading, the research, the watching, the touching, the tasting, and all of these influences everyday ideas which comes in my mind on the mood board, and also looking at how people are responding to things in society, with a lot of problems, with a lot of solutions, with a lot of issues, gender issues. It could be one. It could be racism issues. It could be anything. But then again, I always look through to reflect in my inner self of how I want to influence, how I want to affect people with the dress I want to make, you know. And that's the beautiful part of it for me. And Bologna has been so good. The lasagna is so good. The tagliatelle is so good, and also a city with a lot of histories that I am evolving to understand each and every day how I can navigate around the city. But even though I cannot speak good Italian, it's really terrible, and I'm improving. But people I found, people I make contact with are really so sweet, really so open-minded to integrate and to learn from other cultures. And this opened me to new ideas of how to deal with a city that I know nothing about, and the people, and also try to finesse my way of how to move and how to work on my projects. Yes, I'm working on my projects, which is victor-hart. Is the young brand coming up soon. Talks more about the social issues we deal with. One is bureaucracy, and also speaking more about the struggles that we're going through. I want to use clothes to speak about issues. I want to influence people that you don't just have to put on a dress to feel like you dress. You have to put on a dress to make a statement. You have to put on a dress to tell a story. You have to put on a dress to encourage people. You have to put on a dress to tell people that, hey, this is who I am. I'm for this, I'm for that. And we don't need to judge, you know. The beautiful part of fashion is to accept people who they are, to accept their personality. You know, everyone has a voice, everyone has a say, everyone has a way of dealing with things, everyone has a way of understanding. So we need not to push always how people should dress, how we should allow people to put things in their own way. I like it when I make the dress and then you put it in your way, in the language that speaks for you, because that's how you are trying to interpret the story in your version of how you see it, because how I see is not how you see it. So the beautiful part of life is also to just experience, not to set targets, not to set look for perfection. You know, the imperfections in our everyday struggles are the journey itself, are the beautiful part of how we live. And this is who I am, and in my design process, it reflects all the time, you know. I could see something and then it could strike me with the design, it could strike me with the type of ideas I want to make with the dress or something. So, you know, watch out and for the next story, which I'm going to talk about the collection I'm working on and also the influence of Bologna through my work. And then subscribe to the channel, please, and let's keep in touch. Hit me on Instagram, let's have a conversation. If you're in Bologna, if you're in Italy, write me up. Let's have a conversation about what you feel about Bologna. How do you feel in the city you live in? You know, let's share the story. We could influence ourselves. Thank you. Bye-bye. See you another time.